everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my Road to 1% Mythic Plus series. For this one, we're heading into a 19 Magister's Terrace, and I started this key at 3740 Mythic Plus rating, and I had previously done a 20 Skyreach, so that's why the score is a little bit higher than after I completed the last key in this series. This Magister's actually went pretty smoothly, and this is one of the easier dungeons, and the group I had a great amount of damage, so I think it went pretty well. Throughout the run, I'll be breaking down my healing decisions, cooldown uses, and how I handled some of the more dangerous pulls and bosses. If you'd like to watch the climb live, I stream my progression on both Twitch and TikTok Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where you can hang out, ask questions, and watch these runs happen in real time. With that all said, let's get into the key. All right, so the main thing to point out for this dungeon is that at least the start of this, we may lust or you may lust on that second pack. Often than not, you're gonna lust on this first pack. I've seen many people do that. Um, so I don't know if we do that for this run, but I know I've done multiple runs doing both. If you lust here, then you're going to be able to have another lust when it comes to the glaive mobs later on after the first boss, right before the second boss. So we decide not to lust here. I'm pretty sure we're going to lust on the second pack. Um, with this, you got to make sure you watch out for the slam that he does. I forget what it's called. The surge or something. I forget what it is, but it's a big AoE. Make sure you have everyone topped off for that, and you're not getting knocked into a puddle for this. It can be very annoying, and obviously you don't want to die to one of these puddles as well, because of the AoE. So make sure you're prepared for that. I believe in my 20 run, I focus the Sentinels or whatever these are called, sentries. I don't know. I focus them and make sure that I'm paying attention. So when we pull this hallway, there's a dispel always going to go on somebody. So you want to make sure you're ready to dispel that. Um, and then we lust here, and most people either go around the corner or they can stay in this hallway. It doesn't really matter as long as your DPS are doing what they need to the ads. It doesn't really matter. I just know it's easier to gather them all if you go and LOS all the mobs behind the corner. But either way, I tend to use evangelism here just because there are the dispels that go out, and sometimes there can be a lot of healing that's needed. I don't know if they have any casts, but I know that usually is one of the mob packs that I kind of worry about. Now, this isn't too bad, like the books or whatever, but the pyromancer, like those are annoying. They do a pulsating AoE. So you want to make sure you're prepared for that. And that's also kind of why I use evangelism. I think in my 20 run I did not use evangelism, which is fine, but at least in earlier in this, like when we did the pack before this, I didn't use it here there, but I use it here. But like I said, there's the AoE damage, so you want to make sure you're prepared for that and prepared to heal everybody. The tank usually puts the mob in there so we can do that flame strike in there. I think that's what that is. Either way, big puddle, don't want to stand in it. So here I always usually try to drink if I can. Um, Most of the time I get it off, but it really just depends on the tank. And also the tank sometimes will pull that out and like into this little field area or like courtyard. Sometimes we'll stay in that little area that it's in, or that it's originally in, I should say. So it really just depends. But if you stay in this courtyard, you want to make sure you're okay. I was gonna say I didn't know we kind of butt pulled those ads, but um yeah, you want to make sure if you are in this courtyard, you do not want to pull the ads. because it's guaranteed a wipe then. Um, we only really stay out here because there's a little bit more space than in that other, area. It's smaller. So you want to make sure you're just watching your back. I tend to stay like over here just because then I can put the puddles over here if I get targeted with the beam that he has. So, but either way, this is basically like the same one from that initial pull. Um, so this next pack after this, or packs, I should say. I don't remember if he pulls them into the boss or if he pulls them separately. I know I've done it different ways. I think for higher keys, they tend to pull the books into the boss, and you want to make sure you're ready for that. Or not books, the mana worms. So I'm over here getting ready to drink because if he does do that, then I'm gonna need some mana. So I believe he ends up doing that. Yeah, he ends up doing that. Um, so eventually you kill obviously all the books and they do a big AoE when they die. So you want to make sure everybody's kind of topped off for that. I use evangelism there for it. This boss doesn't really need evangelism. I mean the knockback it does do a little AoE, but it's nothing too serious. Also, tip for the knockback, if possible, stand on the stairs because then you won't get knocked back. You'll just get the AoE damage from the knockback. It helps immensely. Also, make sure you're dispelling the root that happens. Um, Also, this one has a pyromancer in it, so make sure you're watching out for that. I think this one does, unless it was from the other mobs. I'm not sure. Either way, um, he did not move the boss to where it needed to be, like which is basically where I'm at. I think one of the bombs gets in him there. I'm not too sure. But either way, he positioned like the tank positioned the boss kind of in a bad place, so it was definitely weird to soak the balls that come in. Because if you put it right against that wall there, only two will happen and you only have to worry about two people getting the balls or soaking the balls. And the tank is included in one of them. So not that's really the only thing you need to worry about here. Um Other than getting knocked back into one of those because there's still ads on each side of this kind of boss arena. So you want to make sure you're looking out for that. But this tank definitely needs to get the mobs over there or not the mobs, the boss to that boss position. So now you know the boss has balls to soak. You don't want to soak these balls. You want to make sure that DPS do because there's no reason. I'm pretty sure. Like I know that in that past phase that we just did, I soaked one of them. But if you soak more than one, it's not going to be good for you. You are not. I mean, yeah, you could like PS yourself and get it done, but you're not meant to soak that. So just focus on healing everybody else. But this boss is fairly easy if your tank puts the boss in the right place and you're just dispelling the roots unless the roots are people can get out of the roots. It's not that big of a deal. um it's only, I mean, the roots do like they do pulsating damage also the longer they're on you, so you definitely want to make sure they can get out of that or you're dispelling it. So one of the two. And like I said, you want to make sure you're watching out for this knockback. This knockback is like the one thing that will probably like if you pull the ads, it's game over over there. Um, so the boss is basically dead. This boss is fairly easy. It's just the tank. It's mostly a tank mechanic boss. Um, just making sure that everything's positioned correctly. I always drink right after this since he has to pull these mana worms in. Um, so usually he'll pull that and then he'll go back and pull the other side when we progress further down that hallway. But these are the ads that have the glade dot, and they are the scariest. Like, I have a glaive on me now, and honestly, I should have pressed evangelism right there, but I'm saving it for this next pack, I guess, which is fine. But you want to just make sure you're being, very cautious of who has a glaive, and you can't really tell. Honestly, like, I don't have like unit frames telling me who has the glaive, but they will be taking a lot of damage. And if you just see, somebody just taking a whole bunch of damage, periodically, then they definitely have a glaive. So the tank, he's pulling the rest of the mana worms. I'm getting a drink while doing that, and we're going into this hallway. Now, I'm not too sure. I mean, yeah, I guess they would combine these two pulls. Um, yeah, like I said, you just want to make sure you're watching out for the glaives because, like I said, I have a glaive on me. I bet somebody else has a glaive on them. You want to make sure you're just really on top of getting everybody up and dispelling because they also do, they put a dot on you. Some of these mobs do, so I want to make sure you are prepared for that. Um, basically you just want to make sure you have as many void shield procs as possible because that will help you the most in this hallway. If you just have a void shield proc on everybody, they're going to be fine. That and just dispelling. This next pack, I don't think we're lusting. I don't I'm not sure. I don't think so because I think, yeah, we don't have lust. So usually people try to lust this next two packs. Um I think, okay, he only pulls the one because we don't have lust. I think. It seems like he's about to go and pull the next pack, but no. Um I think we lust on the boss because we don't have lust for this. Okay, he does pull those eventually. But usually you should have lust here so you can get these down because, like I said, you get glaives on you. I'm pretty sure you can get double glaives. So like I said, just be prepared to heal people like crazy here. If you, I mean, if we had, I should have used evangelism here, and I did. Um, but I do want to make sure I have evangelism for the boss. This boss is really the only super hard boss in this dungeon, in my opinion. Maybe the last boss too. Um, so there's that. But like I said, you just want to be kind of on top of everything here. These glaive pulls, like the mobs that do the glaives, they can be very scary. And obviously, you don't want anybody in your party to die, so be on your toes. Use those void shield procs if possible. Penance all the time, please. So, for this boss, you have more of these glaives, but they do more damage over time because, it's a boss. So, I believe, like I said, we lost on this boss, which is honestly fine. Like, I don't mind. Like, this boss sucks. Um, so if you don't get targeted by the glaives, you're basically fine. You just got to make sure you keep an eye on the people who do have glaives. Um, now, I have been in a couple different groups, especially when I was getting my 20 done, that they're like, oh, ping whoever needs to go first. The tank always goes last if he gets the glaives, which makes sense. Um, but I've been in runs where I've like pinged people and they just don't care. So if you want to ping whoever's going first, like me, okay, the tank goes first for some reason. I don't know why, even though I don't know. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're all topped whenever somebody goes in the compression zone. Um, yeah, you want to just make sure everybody's top for this. Also, I just a reminder because I always forget, use fade before that so you can take 10% less damage. Also here probably. I PS myself because I already used Desperate Prayer. I don't really remember what I used Desperate Prayer for. I think I pinged myself or the tank did. Um, but yeah, you want to make sure you're figuring out who's going in that suppression zone first. Also, the longer you have that glaive on you, the more damage it does. So you want to make sure you figure that out immediately. And usually I'm just like, whoever is closest to the thing, just go. Um, and I was about to go because the mage took forever. But, like I said, I made sure everybody was topped off and then I went from there. Um, so, like I said, make sure to fade here. Obviously, get in the zone too, but I I'm so bad at using fade. Like fade is such a good cooldown because, damage reduction is pretty good. Um so I don't have anything for this glaive here. Like I said, I think either I'm pinging or the tank is pinging. I feel like maybe the tank is because I feel like I would have gone in if that was the case. But you want to make sure you're as high of health as possible before you go in that suppressor zone because it does do that big AoE when you do that. Um, so you want to make sure you're watching out for that. So I get it again. Lovely. I'm kind of like mage, go in there, and I'm like, okay, well now I need to go in there. I PS myself before I went in there because I knew I was probably going to be dead if I didn't do that. Um, so you have that. If you do get silenced by the silence, this mage does somehow. Like I just noticed that. It's not. I mean, it's obviously kind of a big deal, but by the time the next glaives come out, it's fine. If there was like still pulsating damage, it would be more concerning. But if you accidentally get silenced there, it's not the end of the world. Um, so here, everybody goes up there and channels the thing. I use this time to drink. I'm like, you know what? This is the perfect time to drink. No one has ever said anything to me about it either, so drink here, okay? Like it's okay. No one's complaining, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, also, for this. Oh, this we wanted the lust. We don't have a lust for this. Okay, I think this is kind of sketchy. I feel like this is maybe where we had a death because we don't have lust for this. You definitely want to make sure you have lust for this because this can get scary. Um, this is definitely one of the scarier pulls, and if you don't have lust, it's definitely gonna be harder because things are just gonna die slower. So, it's not ideal. So you have to make sure you watch out for the pools from that are happening just from the area. I don't think anybody's specifically doing that, but these elementals, void elementals, they do a pulsating AoE. So you want to make sure you're watching out for that. And I believe the void, like the little void, I don't know exactly what they're called, but the ones that jump to you, you got to make sure you watch out for that because they will jump to you and they will do a chunk of your health. So it's not fun. Um, okay, so honestly, we didn't do bad on this. Like that pulsating damage is coming out right there, but thankfully, like I said, our damage was really good. This mage didn't really do a lot of damage, at least in that pull. I don't know why, but like I said, we had enough damage. The DH and Ret I feel like carried most of this, but so this next little part, there's a fear that your DPS have to kick. So if you get feared, they didn't kick or interrupt or stun or whatever they need to do. So you just got to make sure you're watching out for that. Other than that, these mobs are not that big of a deal. They don't really do much. Um, Yeah, it's really just the big void elementals that do a lot. Like I said, the DPS is in charge of kicking these mobs, so you don't have anything to worry about. You only have stuff to worry about when they don't do their job. I'm pretty sure when you get feared, I mean, I've had it where we've gotten feared before and like nothing has happened, like the damage just kind of stops. And I had to interrupt that one there. I feared him and I was like, oh my god, no one's interrupting it, I gotta fear it. And I actually, saved us from I because I don't think this big elemental does anything or stops its damage. But if we all get feared, so that pulsating damage definitely would have wiped us, I feel. So if you notice one of them was kind of a straggler out there and wasn't getting targeted or kicked, then you can fear it and it'll get interrupted. But still, it was kind of scary there. I was like, okay, why do I have to fear the thing? But this is why you always have fear, just in case. Not all the mobs can get feared, but still. Unfortunately, that's where our mage dies, because of the pulsating AoE. But I mean, he did have older time he could have used, but I also could have PS'd them probably, but I thought I kind of had everybody there, but it's okay. We only had the one death, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Um, so more of the void elementals, the big one and I guess the smaller ones. This isn't too difficult. Like I said, it's just the pulsating AoE that's like an issue. But honestly, I feel like you can go without evangelism for that. It doesn't happen as often as you would think. As long as you have like a void shield proc, you should be fine. Um, so just make sure you have your void shield procs, in the queue essentially. There is a heal absorb that goes off on the tank, so you want to just make sure you're watching for that. That shouldn't be too big of a deal though, because they are a tank and they do at least bear tanks do a lot of self healing. So there's that. Also, there is a heal absorb that goes off on somebody else. They get like one of those like little AoE puddles, and it's not as bad as the tank one, but it's still a heal absorb. So you're gonna have time to drink right before this boss, since it has to come together, since it's a jellyfish and it splits off. I don't really understand this boss, but it's a void jellyfish. It doesn't need to make sense. So the thing for this boss, the only like real concern I would say is the when it targets you to put a pool on you, or puddle, not pool. Um, so I have the arrow on me. Um, it doesn't really have a timer, I had noticed, so I'm like always prepared. But I'm always prepared. But you want to make sure you're running. That's for sure. You want to make sure if you have that pool and it's been a like it does like a visual when it's gonna drop the puddle on you, so you kind of have an idea. But you always want to put these puddles on the outside and make sure you're just kind of watching, making sure everybody's or that you're not gonna be stuck in the puddle, because I've had it before where I've been in the puddle. It's kind of like in Windrunner Spire, the puddles that it has for that. You want to make sure you're immediately out of that. So it does the tether thing where you have to not tether thing where you have to go and converge with I think it's like a mind link thing, but I'm doing it here to get the what's it called, shield off of that part of the boss. I guess that's the best way to describe that. But then you have these like tethers that are trying to pull you in. Um, this is not. It doesn't do too much AOE damage, but obviously, like I said, having those void procs, it definitely helps. Um, I think I did use evangelism there. Uh, like I said, that damage isn't too bad, but yeah. So I'm kind of just looking out for the pool, and like I said, you want to put those on the edge as much as possible. I think in my 20 run, somebody keeps putting a puddle in the middle, and which is fine, like who's going there, but you want to make sure you try to put these puddles like not anywhere near other people or where they could potentially step on it. I don't know, that's just me. I'm always, trying to get the puddles, all the way to the edge. Especially, I mean, I guess you can't really see them. Like if you put a puddle like where I'm at right now, it'd be hard to see. Um, but if you put it like all the way in the corner, like I'm trying to do, um, I feel like it's fine. So yeah, that boss is fairly easy. It's really nothing. Like that's definitely like one of the easier bosses. I don't think I've had people mess it up like almost at all. That DH almost died there. Thankfully, our paladin had lay on hands. He ripped aggro. Um, you definitely whenever a tank pulls like a whole bunch of stuff like into another room, you don't want to touch anything until all those ads have been on him for at least like 2 seconds and you know they're all targeting him. Like they're especially in like Algathar, I've seen that happen a million times where people just rip aggro and like any other dungeons to be honest. But yeah, no. You want to make sure you don't really do anything. Like I have fade. So I have a little bit more leeway and when I do that, since I do have the threat reduction, it's basically a misdirect. Uh so like it doesn't work. I think it's most of the threat is gone. I'm not entirely sure, but either way. So especially going up here, he's gonna pull that, and then he's gonna pull into the next one. If your tank can't survive this, I don't think I've had issues with this. Because he had the little voidlings, and then we pull into more of the void, the void terrors, which fear you, and then the big void. Oh, I guess he pulled both of them. We aren't skipping. So usually, if there is a skip, if you can do the skip, it's usually just with you can do it with an evoker, you can do it with a warlock preferably, because of the warlock gate that gets everybody over. If it's a with an evoker, you can grip two other people because your oracle. There's a talent in the what's it called? The hero talent tree that allows you to have two grips essentially after you use one. It's like a grace period. If you don't grip anybody within that time, then you can't use it anymore. But yeah. So I had that heal absorb go off on me. Um, yeah, really, you just need to make sure you watch out for these puddles again. That isn't. It may be from these void. It may be. It's either no. It has to be the environment just throwing void puddles out because I could see one going out all the way over there and nobody's ever over there. um. So just make sure you watch out for this AoE. Um. I think usually you try to lust here as well. You don't lust on the boss, you lust there. Because like I said, that can be scary. So this final boss, oh my goodness. I have had so many runs that people fail this final boss. I don't know what it is. You literally just want to all be in a quadrant. It like essentially this is split up into two or four little pie slots. I mean, we have the little pillars there. All you gotta do is pick a quadrant. And since there's four quadrants, two people are gonna be in one. So I usually tend to try and be with the tank. My runs recently have not been with the tank at all. So it doesn't really matter. But if you are in the same quadrant as somebody else, you just want to make sure you're kind of in the back or the front covering the pools or not pools, the soaks there. So this time around, I have my own quadrant. But in the past, people have just not picked a quadrant. It was so bad. Um, but you either way, you want to be spread because you're gonna have. Okay, that probably just ate a ball, and I almost ate that ball. Um, like I said, you want to kind of be spread and prepared for these balls to go off, they detonate essentially, and that's really the only big mechanic. These are the only big mechanics. Obviously you have the tank dispel. Once you dispel, a pool goes down. Usually the tank has that under control, but I feel like most times you're insta dispelling the tank. That's at least what I'm trying to do. Um, so it's not too big of a deal. I mean, they could stand in those puddles for a little bit, especially if they have defensive cooldowns up. So, like I said, I would say dispel whenever you can on cooldown, or not on cooldown, but whenever they have that. Um, so like I said, all you gotta do is soak these, and it does. When you do soak them, it does do a kind of a chunk of your health, so you want to make sure you are topped off for that. Um, or top off anybody else who's about to get it too. Like that mage. I mean, you saw how fast that mage's health just went up because I was like, "Oh, you're getting that." Um, if somebody's already full HP, it's not too big of a deal. But either way, you want to make sure everybody has full HP or as much full as HP as possible. Avoid shield, for example, would definitely save them. So, or would be enough. So this Pally, he was just kind of there. He's kind of just been in the same place the whole time. I mean, he is melee. He has to be close to the boss. Um, but like I said, you want to make sure you're just kind of watching your surroundings here. You're looking for a ball to soak, and you're looking for the balls going out on other people. Um, I don't really know. I think it's kind of random who gets picked on like the balls that disperse from you. If you do have like all the arrows going off on you, then it will for sure go off. I believe this goes off at the same. No, it doesn't go off at the same time. I almost ran into a ball there. So, yeah, that's basically this boss. This boss is literally dead, and we're done. Pretty easy, like I said. So, yeah. And that is my time 19 Magister Terrace. Overall, like I said, I'm really happy with how this run went, and there were definitely a few scary moments, but we managed to keep everything under control and finish the dungeon within the timer. And I will be posting the rest of my 19s I completed by the end of this week. So don't forget you can watch the progress live on both Twitch and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of the Road to 1% series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next key.